Hello and welcome to the skating lesson. I'm Dave Lees.
And I'm Jonathan Beyer. We're kind of in French colors.
Yes! This is and that we are going to be discussing everything that happened at the Grand Prix of France this past weekend. So, Jonathan, what did you make of the Grand Prix of France? It's not usually the third week. It's traditionally always been the fourth week. And we're going out of order this year on the Grand Prix, which I don't enjoy.
I
Okay.
know it's like messing with like the rhythm. I mean, at least we still started with Skate America. That's always a thing for me. But we
Yes.
don't even end with NHK this year, do we?
No,
It
no,
doesn't
it's
look
all
like.
wrong. Okay. I don't get what they're doing. It's like the time change this week. I hate when the ISU does this. And I know people make apologies for everything. And I don't listen. It goes Skate America, Skate Canada, Nations Cup / Cup of China / Finland, right?
Right?
Then it goes France,
Right?
Russia, NHK.
Bingo.
Off, final.
Yeah.
Stop it. Stop it.
Change is scary, Dave.
Listen, Michelle Kwan goes to Skate America.
Skate Canada on the janky blades. Yeah.
And then she does a little Skate Canada, right? Right? Doesn't go to Nations Cup. If we're lucky, maybe she wants to go to Paris that year. Maybe she doesn't. Maybe NHK. Maybe she breaks her foot, right? But like, come on.
I agree. It's very topsy-turvy. New cities, new order.
Yeah.
Because I also associate this Grand Prix event with Grenoble, and I know they're doing it the finals there. But was it also in Angers last year?
I don't know. It was on YouTube for me. That's where.
It's amazing because also like in this competition they have that like strange lofted kiss and cry. It almost looks like a commentator booth, like they've got to schlep up the stairs to it.
You know,
I was like, they just skated. Let them just relax.
The Grand Prix's gotten tough. All right, it's been interesting, but I thought it, and traditionally the third week has always been the down week. Michelle would go to week 1 and 2. Sometimes Arena would go to week 2, right? The star of week 3 was always Maria Butrskaya, right? This was where we met like Anna Pogorilaya, right? Like it was kind of the dud week. Remember back in the day, it would be like Marilyn Charlie would go to Skate America. Maybe the Shibutanis would go to Skate Canada, and Chalk and Bates would have to go to China, right? Because it's the it's the toughest flight, and then it would have the car hanging out, atop.
Right. That Audi that would always just sit there.
Yes. Very strange.
Although I have to say, because I think you're right, normally this can be a slow week or a slow event, but I found a lot of the singles event quite interesting.
Well, the men, everyone had a moment in the men's event, whether they had, 1 minute of the short program that was good, or maybe 90 seconds of the free where they were really holding it together.
Everybody had a takeaway. Yeah.
You didn't know what was going to happen in the men's event. It made it exciting, right?
For real.
So the women's event, there were 2 real storylines here. I want to jump in both. One has been this return of Wakaba. We discussed her at Skate America, and I think in the past we haven't known what to expect from her. And here she really maintained the momentum that she had gained, at earlier competitions this season. And then it's been the continuing rise / realization of potential of Amber Glenn. So I'm okay. Amber Glenn won on paper. Do you think this event was a bigger win for Wakaba or a bigger win for Amber to get a gold medal on the Grand Prix?
I think the answer is yes to both. I think what's interesting is Wakaba, which I think we saw her in France last year when she sort of first attempted, the comeback, and we very much saw something that was in process, not ready to go. The minute she came out for this short program, we can always say like, oh, now she has more confidence from the Skate America win and blah, 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 blah. But you saw it, especially in that short program. It was a drive, a fierceness, a determination. Like from the beginning of the music, you could tell she was on a mission to do very well, and she did. I thought it worked, and it was interesting because I think Amber, with that same skate, in the free skate in particular, could have placed lower, and the takeaway would be something very different. But I think the big message here was that short program where the judges were like, yeah, we're waiting. We're here for you. We will support you if you put this together.
And Amber's been one of the big personalities of the ISU as a whole, right? The whole skating world has been waiting for her to put it together. I think, especially with the absence of the Russians, you know, Twitter and everyone is very behind Amber and her personal story. One thing I will say about Amber is I really think her music choice and the choreography is ready for an upgrade. And what I mean by that is I don't think that she picks music that's particularly interesting, right? Typically, she has an edgier short program and a more lyrical, whiny, feminine ballad free skate, right? There's a sameness to them, and I don't feel like the music choice in the short program is edgy enough, and I feel like she could actually do more. I'd like to see her work with Shailin perhaps in the future, maybe Shailin and Caitlin Weaver. You know, I'm not firing anyone from, but I think it's time to get a little craftier so that she can be a little bit more interesting to the mainstream public and also raise her own performance ability. And I think the Olympic season will be a good time to do this because she'll have more experience doing the triple axel in both programs. So it won't be like, okay, that's a bridge too far, right? And I think maybe trying to, yeah, she's doing Janet Jackson, but not a Janet Jackson song that I don't know that many people are familiar with, right? It's just not as edgy as she could go. And we were actually saying she could do something like K-pop next year or something to really get audiences into it, right? She has this
the energy, right? Because I do think, even though, yes, I hear what you're saying about the short program, to me, I still far prefer the short program.
Yes.
Because I think, you know, again, the music is also setting the tone for the person, and it seemed to be a good balance of like surging energy and yet sort of like staying centered. Where some of that like emo singer-songwriter stuff, to me, it almost like takes away the energy you would need in order to do what she's trying to accomplish technically. So I particularly agree with that concept for the free skate.
Does she need to have a Firebird moment, something where she's aggressive?
Yeah, but see, I don't know that Amber herself may respond to that intensity of a classical version of intense. She could, she might.
I think it's time to try, right? Because remember when Gracie would always do, oh my God, what was the 2017 program that she did? She brought it back, you know, for
Chloe, the Ravel.
Yeah. Whenever she was being pretty, right? A piece like that, it was almost like the nerves came back. And when she could be aggressive, she could go against the nerves, right?
Well, yeah, because you can sort of like channel that adrenaline and attack. I think, and this happens in music all the time, is like if it's something super sensitive, something very exposed and vulnerable sounding, you can inevitably hold back. You can inevitably try to get small or be too delicate and that you can't really get what you need behind you. But conversely, and we'll talk about this when we get to like the pairs, some of the music can get so big and too intense that you see it backfire the other way also.
Yeah.
It's
all about the right piece of music, and it is difficult, and that's why you hire choreographers for their input. And I think that the vibe that she has going on in the short program is good. She is rather successful with it. She was successful with it at nationals and here, and I think it could, you know, further her, right? I think that they could build on it a little bit more energy, right? Like kind of like how Cowrie did 2 years ago with Roheen with that program. It was, you know, quite successful for her. I think that something in that vein would work quite well for her. So I think that would work.
And she has the capability. You know, sometimes when we see sort of these same consistent approaches, you wonder if maybe because they know there are limitations, but she moves well. She takes up space on the ice. She can hit big grand positions and stuff like that I think they could utilize even more.
Yeah. I worry when she does these very emo-y programs that it's almost like Sasha Cohen, where as soon as she makes one mistake, people are going to be like, well, it's not a perfect program. Well, it's not 2004 anymore.
Right.
And you can often afford one error if you rebound from it. And perhaps if the error is small, right? Almost everyone has.
That's the lesson because, yes, there was the error on the triple axel in the beginning of the free skate, but then the two errors that happened later, like it was that final error because it was starting to give up or starting to go dark internally. Like, I don't know how we would know that. But I think the idea that she has this experience under her belt to prove if you keep fighting and get back on track, you're still in it.
Yeah, I think this is positive for her. What worries me is that she's now won two of the big titles of her career with free skates that were subpar, right? Where she acted as though she felt she failed, but then it turned around and she won and she was quite happy. She did have a good, competition earlier in the season where she really did two solid programs. I hope for her in the next competition that with this experience and the experience she's had previously, that she could win a competition where the free skate was stronger, even if maybe the short isn't perfect, right? Hopefully the short is. But whether or not the short is perfect, I just want to see her skate a good free skate that she feels good about, because it actually feels like that is becoming more of the question for her, is like, can she do a good free skate?
And it's interesting because Mark, it was nice to hear Mark commentating again, but he was talking about her public acknowledgement of her struggles with ADD.
Mm-hmm.
That, like, some of that plays into sort of the hills and valleys she can experience throughout a long program.
Mm-hmm.
And it was fascinating because I was trying to think if there were other skaters who sort of talked openly about ADD and skating.
I don't think so. She also has talked on Paulina's podcast and what she wrote about. She does neurofeedback. And I know it's some of what Simone Biles did. I believe the USOPC was involved with both of them because they try to get the best people. I mean, Simone might have her own people as well, but my understanding is that they have tried to get her in with a very specific person to help her, and it's certainly paid off. And she's done it for about a year, is what I heard.
Right.
And she talked about it in that interview. She wrote about it on her Instagram. So I think
And
you're,
for those viewers who don't know,
yeah.
what is neurofeedback? What does that mean?
My understanding of neurofeedback, and it could be something like EMDR, but they also do something where I believe they attach electrodes, right, to see, and it can test the brain waves, right? So it can, and I don't know how they would simulate competition, right? But maybe you watch a video back or you talk through, but they're able to determine what brain waves are firing or not firing when you are under stress, right?
Interesting.
Because a lot of skaters will disassociate in competition or dissociate, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And we've seen this, right? And that's horrible. And you often, have, a terrible performance. They try to work with you to get you in a more relaxed or assertive, uh, mindset, so that when you're under pressure, you don't have like a trauma response where you dissociate or you are not functioning. I'm not I'm not an expert in this, but I'm trying to
Yeah, I understand. Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sure there'll be someone in the comments that will explain this much better than I ever could. I only know from I was talking to someone who has done it with Amber's doctor, and they were saying that there was a problem that they were having under stress in competition, where it was not matching what happened when they did their program in practice.
Well, and that was something we were talking a great deal about with Christy Ness when she came on. I think it was after Nationals. And she was like, if the training is great
Mhm.
and it's not translating to competition, 100% you have got to like find mental health professionals to help you sort it out.
Yeah.
It's not due to a lack of trying. It's not due to a lack of training. It is something that just gets a little crossed in the. This is she's not inconsistent. It sounds like
Yeah.
it just
And,
comes up on occasion under competition life.
yeah, and what I was seeing or hearing about I forget where I was going to go with this neurofeedback, my own ADE. We're talking about but it seems like she's improving, right? Like it's making those incremental adjustments that she's making to get better. And I think her training has improved since she's moved with Damon and been in Colorado. So I think we're seeing step by step an improved Amber, right? I don't want to say a new Amber, but an improved Amber. I think she's responding to the situations better. She's going for the triple axel. There is more pressure on her, and she's handling it. So
Yeah.
it seems like it's working, and it's a work in progress. It doesn't just get better over time. You have to keep doing it again and again. So,
And this is one of those moments because we often hear, skaters be like, everything's different now, get ready. And then, of course, it inevitably is more of the same. But I believe in these incremental changes. I believe there is a big picture destination. And I think I do see them inching towards it. And sort of these small, subtle, incremental improvements, I think ultimately is how anyone's going to get there. Yeah, so I'm hopeful for her as well.
yes.
I think it all bodes well. Now, a Grand Prix final, maybe that's a different kind of pressure, but she's also been at Worlds, which is a different kind of pressure. So it will be intrigued to see.
I think that if she could wind up on the podium at the Grand Prix final, it would be huge for her.
Yeah.
At this point in her career, there's going to be so many more experiences that she's going to gain, right? Then basically from here on out, every competition is big for her, right? She doesn't, and especially because of the focus on her, she doesn't really have room for bad competitions, right? She's expected or has the potential to win almost every time out, and there's pressure to that, but she's handling it, right? And
a side note, and I'm sorry to interrupt, do you think that's part of the strategy? Have we heard anything about the reasoning behind Isabeau's withdrawal from Finland?
No, I have no idea. What I would say is Isabeau has looked physically a little bit injured with her back hip area. If you look at her spins and how they look now, and then I felt like this is conjecture, but her jumps and spins at nationals, when it looked like her body was almost failing her at the point, that this kind of like region, right? And people have always talked about her technique, which this would kind of be consistent with that. The next thing is that I saw her at Ilya Malinen's show. And again, the layback was a struggle and didn't look as it had looked in the past. And they kept running this insipid finale to Imagine. It was a tribute to the bridge that had a
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And she was marking her spiral. And I get that you have to do it a million times. Who wants to do a spiral a million times? Chalk and Bates started, marking their lift. But it was just a strange thing to see someone mark, especially with how her spins are looking different. I wouldn't be surprised to hear she has an injury. She could be sick, right? But her spins are not what they were 2 years ago when they would rack her up maximum GOE, maximum levels every single time out. So we have seen stranger spins from her over time.
Okay. Because I would imagine for her also, as we see this like crop of American ladies sort of like finagling their way into the scene a little bit, because I'm sure she also and her team feels that every competition out has to be a win to solidify. And maybe if they don't foresee that being possible, it was a strategic choice that way. But okay, I'm
not sure.
The point is that we don't know.
But she certainly won't be at the final now. And so, and while that's disappointing for her, that's another opportunity for Amber, right? That puts more pressure on Amber, but it also puts her in position to establish herself as the leading U.S. lady heading into nationals and the World Championships. I thought it was interesting that she's definitely playing USFS politics well. There was a short little ISU clip on her, and she said that her number one goal for the year is to help the U.S. get 3 spots for the Olympics. And I thought, oh, they're going to love you for saying that. Remember when Johnny Weir said, I don't care how many people have spots as long as I have one of them. And thought, oh, Johnny.
Which was the truth.
It was the truth, but it's not the thing to say. And you know what? He
would
wanted to
have
get
been the
the
third
third
out.
spot to the Olympics that
I
year.
know. That's karma. Yeah.
Right? So come on. Not the best thing to say, but he used to like to ruffle feathers and push boundaries back in the day. That was his shtick.
Yeah.
So I think he was happy for that third spot when all was said and done. So it's okay. But multiple truths. But I think Wakaba is really the win here. And I'm curious, once she gets through the Grand Prix season and gets through Japanese nationals, do you expect to see her try the triple axel for the World Championships?
Yeah, again, what's remarkable is that one point in between the Olympics and now, when she was running marathons and doing all this other sort of stuff, I really had thought we were not going to see her again.
Yeah.
It has blown my mind. One, when she did come back last season, to see how much she was already achieving, and now to see how much more she's been able to achieve. I have no doubt it's on the docket, because the double still looks comically enormous and almost looks like a placeholder for the triple.
Yeah. And what's interesting is that she's giving more and more pointed quotes than she has in the past. At the press conference for Skate America, she wouldn't commit to going for the Olympics. She said that her goal last year was to get through each competition. And this year, it seems like she wants to demand her personal best at each competition. And I thought the mindset shift is interesting. She hasn't put the triple axel in yet. She's been more consistent. The biggest struggle for her has been making sure she gets full rotation on the Lutz triple toe, which happens to do with how she really sets up the Lutz and whether she goes for more height or more distance to really get the ride out. The other thing is spins have never been her strength, and she definitely needs to continue working on them, especially in the program. So,
but it's interesting. I saw her live do Lion King at Skate Canada that Olympic season. And it was one of the most glorious triple axels I've ever seen live by a woman. Mm-hmm. The arc, the speed, the flow, it was just incredible. And obviously we still see that in the double axel. It's interesting, especially on the triple triples, she doesn't seem to get that same height.
Neither did Tanya. Tanya struggled with the triple as well.
That's what I'm saying. I think, and I know Midori would like occasionally pop out the triple toe also. But for those that seem to really like to hurl themselves into these massive forward entrances, it seems to be harder for them to get the height in those triples for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's surprising.
Yeah. She's definitely good at her edge jumps, and I would expect her to put the triple axel in, especially because the skating world has not had many stars in the last couple of years since Russia was banned and since the age rule was implemented, because we would have seen Jia Shin and Mao Shimada rise to the senior ranks sooner. So there's been this weird vacuum of space. And Wakaba was a really important member of skating. She was powerful. She's dynamic.
Total fan favorite. Yeah.
And through her struggles, she shows a will, right, to come back, and a fighting spirit. And she always picks music that's rather emotional, whether it was part of the Lion King, the Adele music, the Kate Bush. It seems like it comes from within, right, when she's performing, and it endears people to her. And
even the Dune short program music, where again, it's not like a bleeding heart kind of emotion, but the emotion of that like determination and confidence, and it was also very alluring.
Yeah. She's always kind of been the people's champion, especially, yes, there are people that have always liked Kaori, but I think Wakaba's got a real shot this year at doing something, whether it's...
Again, we're talking about such a deep field even here, because then you also have, I'm intrigued where like, that, do they have 3 spots this year?
Yeah.
Okay. Like Rion, I don't know where she falls in that mix.
She could fall any which way. And Wakaba, you know, Alyssa and Kurt were in Japan working on a camp earlier this year. And what was interesting to me was that Wakaba wasn't even at that camp, right? Because she wasn't considered one of the people on the national team. She's always been on the outside looking in a little bit. And she's really delivering now where this is changing for her. You know, everything that she's ever gotten, she's really had to earn, right? You know, Cowrie has been very consistent, but Cowrie has never had the triple axel, right? And she is someone that was always well liked by the Federation. I wonder this year, you know, Wakaba's got a chance, and we've seen struggles from Cowrie. I certainly don't think her free program is strong. I don't think her short is as good as the short she did 2 years ago. I think it's better than the short she did last year. I'm curious to see where Cowrie is at her career at this point. I think Wakaba could have a real shot at the final and at Japanese nationals. So I'm intrigued by what will.
Who do we think else, or who else from Japan is in the running sort of to be in the women's event in the final? Would you say? Because yes, Rion was second here, right? I'm trying to.
Third. She's third here. She's the second, you know, ranked Japanese lady. Skate Canada, you know, Rino Matsuki and Hana Yoshida being on the podium, so they would, you know, have the potential to make the final as well.
I mean, again, maybe it's just because also like Wakaba is very memorable to me, as is Cowrie.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the other skaters are a bit safer,
mm-hmm.
a bit more pleasing, you know, checking all the boxes. So I those two just stand out as stars to me.
Yes,
in a unique way. Which
Rino Matsuki had a lovely free skate in Skate Canada. Hana Yoshida, I find more generic, right? Like I don't find a huge difference in her style compared to what we saw this week. But I think the free skate was better that we saw this week from Mion Sumiyoshi. So yeah.
And she's got something interesting to her.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know, it's all been, you know, it's still coming together, I think, in many ways, but there is something very big about her, like patterns on the ice. And again, it's sort of this idea of IJS seems to invite people to close in, and she really allows herself to take up space. And it's really nice to watch that way.
Do you think the sport is kind of moving on from Luna?
Wait, I was trying to see if I wrote anything else about Rio. No, big edges, flows nice. Oh, I thought her short program dress reminded me of a Trapper Keeper. Do you remember Trapper Keepers?
Yes.
Okay. The thing is, as we're talking about someone like an Amber Glenn, Amber Glenn and this incremental improvement from competition to competition has us looking forward to seeing her again. And unfortunately, she's had a very long career, Luna's done wonderful things, but we know sort of now she has to preserve. It's a little harder for her to stay at a certain level, understandably so, throughout an entire season. So to me, as a viewer, it automatically instills a little bit of nerves around her performance. And again, not because I'm saying she's doing anything wrong, it's just sort of an inevitable reality. And so I'm a little more nervous to watch Luna than I have been in the past. And the novelty of like her doing a different kind of program has sort of worn over the past 2 seasons. So that in and of itself isn't enough of a draw, I think.
Remember Jill Trenery won Worlds in 1990, right?
To get out. Yeah.
It's fabulous, right? But people will also say, did you see Midori's free skate? How did she win that, right? But you also have to realize that figures were a part of this, and that as amazing as Midori's triple axel and free skating was, her figures were not. And, you know, Jill was more well-rounded throughout the 3 portions of the competition, even with a rough short program. So an interesting, you know, kind of dynamic there. Jill didn't actually retire after 1990. And she was injured in 1991. and she competed in the fall of 91, and there's even a video of her on YouTube. It's her 1992 Midwestern sectionals. You know, Carlo and Krista had moved to Italy. She was with Carol Heiss this year.
Mm.
You know, I don't know if Jill would want anyone to see that YouTube video of her Midwestern sectionals from 1992. That was not her finest hour.
I was surprised after, I mean, you've become world champion. They still made her do a sectionals.
Well, you know, it's interesting. She competed at Skate Canada that year, and then she was, you know, trying to make, you know, nationals to make the Olympic team. But remember, she was, you know, the 1990 world champion, but then the US ladies had swept
91. Yeah, it was clear. Yeah.
So she would have had to knock off either Nancy or Tanya or Chris, you know, who's she going to knock off? And it was clear that that wasn't going to happen when you watched, certainly at sectionals.
Happening fast, because here's the thing, like, we know after the Tanya and Midori triple axel showdown, and this changed everything in the beginning, it kind of went away for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But if suddenly, like, you looked up and there were two of your competitors that could jump like those two women could, I'd be like, I got to get out.
Plus, Nancy could really jump too. You know, we don't think of it because she didn't do a triple axel.
The Lutzes, and she had a triple toe, yeah.
In Nancy's air position, her flip, like her jumps were really technically sound. And Jill's were not as good. So with Luna, her jumps are not technically sound. She struggles with rotation on her triple triples, and then with her consistency, and the rotation is not as good. With someone like Wakaba back in the mix, and Amber, and Cowrie, you throw Alyssa Liu in the mix, then there's, you know, whoever makes it out of Japan for, you know, the women are going to be, I think, stronger this year than they were last year.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough for Luna, I think.
I think so too. I mean, and what first drew me to her was that she was a woman among girls.
Mm-hmm.
And I just so appreciated what she stood for and who she was, and that she was doing it and all that sort of stuff. But now, with Russia out of the picture and the age limit change, it doesn't seem as prepubescent, the competitions. For a while, it was getting, you almost had to remind yourself you weren't watching a junior event, based on a lot of the ages and sizes of the competitors and the types of skating that happened as a result. So now we have what I prefer in women's skating, which is a bunch of women doing mature programs. So I think she's no longer the novelty that way. Yeah. Now Wakaba does come with a point of view, and Cowrie seems more mature, and all of these people just seem older and more interesting to me. And I think she's getting passed by technically, for sure.
Yeah. And she did have her moment where she won European, so she may feel that internal ceiling, but we'll see. You know, she had posted that she was starting to train again. I think we will see what happens. I'm kind of intrigued to see where.
Could win another Europeans.
Yeah.
And it's been interesting because, again, as North Americans, we don't seem to value four continents with the same amount of weight that people consider Europeans. Yeah. And for so many, Europeans seems like a real reason to stay in.
Yeah. I would be surprised to see her try for, but I also wouldn't be surprised to see her not.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did you think of the men's event? So we had Adam Siao Him Fa win here. He had an injury. He said he's been training for 5 weeks. He did not have his strongest performance here, but he skated very well in terms of someone who's been injured. I mean, he landed a quad, and it was certainly a powerful performance.
I mean, we have talked about cigarette breaks in programs before.
Yes, we have.
But I've never seen someone take a nap.
I've never seen someone lay on the ice, but then he was so French where he did the heartbeat, right?
Yeah, he's catching his breath. Yeah.
I asked Sandra about it. She said the French have been avant-garde and weird for the sake of being weird for a long time.
From day one. Yeah.
Even in her day.
Yeah. I'm sure there's an Eric Bompard joke in there somewhere. But it was interesting because I think was that Magic Memories on Ice? It was one of those where they were talking about the Torval and Dean fall, or, you know, the laydown moment at the end of both. and or maybe it was in one of their world championship ones. And they were like, oh, and then every ice dancer thought, oh, we're supposed to lay down.
Why on the
And then
ice?
they showed this montage of everyone the following 2 seasons just copying it. So it's not so much that I saw Adam do it. It's like setting a legal precedent. I'm like, oh gosh, now I'm worried everybody's going to start doing it.
Yes. Oh, yes. Remember when they started touching the boards?
That's what, yes, in the ice dance, it's going to be the same. I fear. And
Mark Henretti called it bold, and then I messaged him, and he said, "Well, I couldn't really call it a cigarette break, right?"
Which it really was. I mean, it was a committed one. He didn't
committed. Okay, that was French AF. All right, I was. You know what? It was so unexpectedly French in the middle of that program when he just laid down on the ice. Also, the hoodie. Okay. The hoodie, and it looked like track pants. I mean, is there just no standard? We don't care about line at all. You know, no one is going for stretch. This is the opposite of stretch, right? If you're an ugly skater, wait. If you're an ugly skater, who's your choreographer?
Benoit. We've all done that. Yeah.
And now with Ilya Malinin and Adam Siao Him Fa broing out, we can just wear hoodies on the ice, and we're doing backflips and.
But let me tell you what I see as the difference. Okay, also in setting legal precedent about like the laying down smoke break. Now, also we've got, Ilya is wearing a fake hoodie. Ilya is not wearing a hoodie. Ilya is wearing a shirt with a painted hoodie on the back. Now, Adam not only has the hoodie, but is starting to use it as a prop in the beginning. And I'm like, this is dangerous territory we're headed towards. Again,
excuse me, Valieva used a hood as well, okay? It's an artistic choice.
We know how we felt about that.
Wait. Remember when, okay, first of all, the girl from France, whatever, Lorene, right? Remember she went from like good Sandy to scandalous.
Yes.
Right? Then we saw Anna Sherbakova do it. And we all acted like we had never seen it before during the final.
Well, because she did.
Drusova, who doesn't like to be left out of anything, needed her own dress switch the same season, the next competition.
That's what I'm afraid of.
Yes.
Yeah, because I have to say, to give Adam and Benoit credit, the Dune program is an interesting concept. And what I also have been enjoying, it is the soundtrack du jour, but almost every program we have seen of it is taking a different approach.
Wait. Pause. Are you implying that a real hoodie is like a feature in GOE as opposed to a fake hoodie because it makes it aerodynamically harder? This is very Megan Duhamel of you, okay? Megan told me that she is going to compete at the adult competition in Toronto. She's going to wear a hoodie. You know what? She'd look great in a hoodie, right? I mean, come on.
But it has to be up and like pulled. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, one does wonder. I think back to even Jenny talking about the Chicago dress, which we all loved, and it's so gorgeous. And she's like, do you know how long I had to practice in the outfit to get used to like all that fringe attacking me while I was doing anything? Now, mind you, people probably practice in hoodies and stuff like that. But what I will also commend Adam and Benoit for is the timing and the way they are using the backflip.
When's the last time you wore a hoodie?
Oh, you know when it was? When we did our Skate Canada recap, and I wore a UBC hoodie the next morning because it was held at UBC. So,
were you cold? Like, what was the point?
I was freezing in the rink, so I went to the UBC bookstore and bought that hoodie.
And have you worn that hoodie since?
Maybe on a laundry day. I'm not really a hoodie guy.
It shouldn't look like laundry day at the short program at the Grand Prix of France, right?
Did have a bit of that energy, but what I'm trying to get at is, again, I feel the need to reiterate this every time. Ilya is a marvel. Technically, it's remarkable what he does. Having said that, this approach of like, okay, we can't really go classical lyrical lines in this, so we're going to go for this approach. I guess I just see Adam and Benoit achieving it more successfully and more.
Okay, you know that Sarah Everhart. We skipped over her in the ladies, but we've talked about her before, and she did the Firebird that was, with no extension. She's a great competitor.
She's a great competitor.
She's reliable. She's very technically sound.
Yeah.
She's about as she reminds me of the gymnast Jade Carey. I don't know if you remember her from the Olympics this summer, but
Only by name.
Jade Carey is technically proficient, not quite as good as Simone,
Okay.
but with the charisma of a wet towel, and she it is what it is, right? And I'm concerned that under the artistic direction of Ilya and his mother, Ilya with the fake hoodie and his mother with the Aladdin program, that we may need to call in the experts like Sandra and Jojo to help this girl like every day, like all day, every day.
She strikes me as a dreamy student. She strikes me as
we could call in that David Shapiro, right? And he could be like fluttering around and moving with her. She needs help. She needs expert help, not Benoit. Like Isabeau, we don't know what's going on with her, right? Alyssa Liu, how many jumps did she rotate in Canada? Not many.
I still think she's going to get it together.
Of course, but how many of those jumps did Alyssa really rotate even in her heyday? I mean,
fair enough. Yeah.
Okay. Listen, I am so for the Donna Summer program. I'm for it. Okay. Needs to be at Boston Worlds, right? Yeah. Donna was from Boston.
I have a feeling it would be. Yeah.
Oh my God. Boyang Jin performing to Boston. Oh, people, it's like the Romanian gymnast coming to America in 1991. Yankee Doodle Dandy.
That's right.
Okay. But anyway, I digress. She needs help. Sarah Everhart is someone who needs
remind me. So it was Firebird.
She needs ballet class and Pilates and JoJo. I mean, when you talk to JoJo, she talks about Jonathan, you're on the ice with her, and she'll be like, Jonathan, I want you to follow your arm, and I want you to look at your hand like you're looking to the end of a rainbow, and then I want you to reach towards the audience.
But she's right.
Of course she's right.
That's what's missing. Because she did the Firebird for the free skate, but the short program was another very antiquated warhorse for skating. I can't remember what it was.
Do you think Ilya and his mother have ever seen a rainbow? No, right?
Not even going to make a joke. I'm just.
Well, if he did, he would get better program component scores.
I know. That's where I was thinking. And I was like, you don't have to be that person, Jonathan. Okay. But somehow, I believe what Adam is doing more. I think it's a more convincing sell. And I think the backflip in particular compared to Ilya's is so bam with the music, such an exciting when it's that button at the end of the program and it's like boom, boom, end. And I was like, whoa, it does pack a wallop.
Yeah.
And the rest, I think the jumps and, feeling untrained and stuff like that. I think he's really in it.
He is in it.
I think so. Yeah.
It's horrifying, but it's true. He's in it.
And this French thing of where we have a Kevin and an Adam is this lovely balanced moment. It's fascinating.
And we have a Yuma. Okay, we haven't seen enough of him. Yes.
See, because the one for me,
there were a lot of tragic straight boys at this competition. It was.
Well, that's where we were going next. Because I think also, even for me, although there's nothing wrong, but Koshiro Shimada, to me, doesn't always grab me as an audience member. Okay,
this is what I've said. Well, we're going to start with a nice comment, right?
Yeah.
He has a very delicate touch of his blade to the ice. And you know what? Watch his footwork sequence and watch his back inside loops on the ice. They are so nice.
There's some really beautiful, gentle qualities about his skating that I do love.
At the beginning of his free skate to Dance Macabre, he has real choreography. Like a real program is happening for 35 seconds before he goes into the jump. He's musical. He's on the beat. His problem is he needs to hang out with you with that Alexander method, and we need to learn how to stretch the limbs because he has these long Evan Lysuchek limbs, but he bends them even more than Evan.
And it's so obvious when you're that long.
Yes. He's
He's
very limmy, and his air position is not taut, which hurts him in the air. He's doing a lot of double threes out of all of his jumps. And he's having issue checking, right? And he also just never looks extended on the ice. And it's
a punctuation mark at the end of the movement. Or like you're saying with JoJo, it's like maybe he follows the rainbow, but then it just kind of fades at the end instead of sort of landing. at the pot of gold, or whatever the analogy is here. But I'm surprised because Lambiel is so elegant. That seems like something he would be able to address.
It has seemed like this boy has kind of been one of the nice boys that's been with Lambiel for a while, but who's never been the focus. He was not the showman, right? And he's been the little engine that could in many ways. I mean, remember he was second at nationals and no one could believe it, right? He's had a million lives. He's really gone above and beyond his potential in some ways, right? And
I know what you mean by that. Yeah.
He seems lovely, he seems good, but he's not as talented as Sota Yamamoto, right? Like
I mean, as I'm looking at like the PCS, also, did you know Skating Scores has a countdown now?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm very excited. But we are looking at surprisingly low PCS marks for someone that I think has the potential to be very profitable in that category.
Yeah. I wanted to ask your opinion of another boy from Japan who we have loved for years, okay? But in the past, he's done really overt things like to La La Land. That was basically him saying like, love me, love me. I mean, he was like basically Richard Simmonsing out on the ice, right? Very Jason and Tracy, right?
Big energy, big performative.
Jazz hands, right?
And I don't think either program remembered that that's what made him so special.
Does he need like a Fosse number next year? Maybe like black with white.
Razzmatazz.
All right, this butterfly program. Lori did it.
I know. And
it has to be clean. It needs a better costume, even though the song references wearing white at one point. This song doesn't build towards the end, so it goes on. It has interesting moments, although at one point, did you notice he's doing the chicken dance with his arms, but not with his legs?
Yeah.
All right.
And going backwards, right? Is a little.
He also has some extension problems. And here's what I'm thinking. He's been lost in the shadows for a long time. His technique is often a little bit circular. We're not trying to change it, but he's working with Lori now. Lori has Carolina Costner working in person with Yuma. Don't you think it could be good if Kazuki also trained with Yuma? That way he would train with someone technically, he'd also train with Carolina artistically, and we just give it the best shot for either a show career or competition, like synergy. They seem friends, right? I would like to see them train together because I feel like we need to upgrade, right? Like I'm sure you went from one voice teacher to one that had more, expertise to someone who had more expertise. I feel like he's been waiting to make that next jump for a long time. And we went to Lori for choreography. We need it in the coaching and in the day-to-day.
Okay, but this, I think Lori is so often a genius. I love some of the stuff she does. I don't know I would have thought of her for Kazuki. Based on her strengths. Like, I would send a Torgashev to Lori Nickel yesterday. Like,
Torgashev is so bro-y that I think he belongs with Shailin, right? Like, that's what you do.
I mean, and what they're doing is definitely working. I was obsessed with the short program in particular, but I'm trying to think of or Nicola Memola. Lori could really get somewhere with a skater like that. But Kazuki's was more, again, about joy and performance and razzmatazz, not elegant introspection. So
I would go either Jeff Buttle or David Wilson for Kazuki.
I'd go David Wilson. I think he's a showman at heart. And that's why we all loved him.
David Wilson calls in Sandra, right? Like they could work with Kazuki,
Because again, Sandra's expertise being, let's see who we've got here. It felt like these programs were trying to soften him a little and give him a little bit of release with an energetic step sequence and move at the end. I think it just kind of missed the mark a little. But you're right, it's all a moot point until sort of the consistency is back.
Yeah, what I noticed with him is that at his best, he's capable of doing 3 quads and perhaps 2 triple axels. We rarely ever see that. And because of that, he's always kind of 5th place in Japan, 6th
Right.
place, 7th place, sometimes 3rd. You know, we're like, oh, thank God, right? When,
Yeah.
when he gets on the world team, he's a really important skater because he does, you know, tug at your heartstrings. That said,
If they let him.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think the butterfly program does it.
Yeah. And by they, I mean like the programs. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I would go back to La La Land for nationals. I mean, I don't want to piss off Lori, but at the same time, I don't know. It was. I
Because to
can't
me,
think of-
that's not Lori's strength, is that kind of showman sort
I
of
think she was trying to elevate him and make it subtle, but he has to be clean in order for this program to work. This is why I think he needs to go with Yuma and Carolina.
Yeah.
And be around a higher level of training, perhaps to be around a higher level of training and standards and what we do every day, right? Because there are real ingredients there, but I think he's just missing that extra finishing. For Torgashev, this is interesting. I always
I'm
remember.
obsessed with his short program.
Okay, so Raphael told us when we visited in 2015, he was talking about someone, he's like, the better shape someone's in, the better technique they're going to have. And we heard Torgashev talk about how he's running, right? Because I asked Raphael about Torgashev last year for Worlds, and he goes, he didn't work hard enough. Well, now all of a sudden he's running. And remember when Adam started running and
Right.
working on his programs with Derek and really took his training into his own hands? He was more consistent than ever before the 2018 Olympics, right? And that allowed him to really withstand all of that media attention and perform so well at those Olympics. And I felt like Torgashev took a real step forward here.
Mm-hmm. Because he's always had these glimpses of absolute brilliance. And last year, his short program step sequence, I think it was out of this world. I think this short program is out of this world. You know, I know they were going for the Scheherazade in the free. I think in the big picture, I may not view him as that kind of skater. But the posture, even though you say he's broy, and you're right, but there is such like a broad open chest and gorgeous arms. His
Yes.
arms also move so beautifully that I am immediately put at ease. And again, it's another example. I don't mean to sound like I'm razzing on Ilya, but this is like the short program is an example of, okay, we're going to go for something a bit more, for lack of a better term, broy. But they achieved it so well. And it was done with such quality that to me, it works phenomenally well.
Yeah. And I thought this is a building block for him. You know,
Yes.
he has it. We should mention Mikhail Shaidorov. This to me is someone that has amazing rotation. And we saw him do
Really, my God, we've been hearing about all of these guys trying that triple axel quad toe, but to really see it.
Remember when Plushenko was trying it once upon a time? I mean, this was really, I mean, it was phenomenal. And it didn't even look like he was perhaps perfectly over his blade, where his weight was. He did it and with the margin of error, right? That it didn't look like it was his best attempt at
We
this.
made that thing happen.
Yeah. I mean, he's extremely good.
Yeah.
His programs are Mishin-esque, coached by Urmanov. I mean, what we would come to expect, but
And yet, isn't it so funny? Because Urmanov was always against Elvis Stoico, somehow Urmanov was always painted as this artist to the public. Yeah.
you know, maybe I'm with Elvis that his dragon program had more artistic integrity.
Just saying.
You know what? It's withstood the test of time. Okay.
Yeah. He was right. He was right. And they also, which is sort of reminds me of Misha a little bit, totally perplexed why the PCS wasn't higher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you see Camden Polkanen? That was.
I did. And again, knowing that this event could have moved your reputation one way or the other for these American men.
Yeah.
Andrew walked through a door, and Camden sort of had the opposite experience, I think.
This is why I'm glad that we have a selection procedure, because I'm really I'm getting tired of Camden not showing up to many competitions. Now, remember in the Olympic season, he did show up for nationals and worlds.
And didn't he do really well at Four Continents also there? Yeah.
He's not shown up on the Grand Prix and instilled any confidence, right? With whatever is going on. He has a job in addition to training, and I get it that that's very hard, but at the same time, he's going for the Olympics. He's going to have to perhaps pick one or the other. I just don't know that we can trust him to really go out and be as.
I would still trust a Jason and a Torgashev and an Ilya.
Yes.
Over. I don't know who he would dethrone at the moment in order to get that spot.
I will say his free skate is choreographically wonderful, right? But he missed the slide in his choreographic sequence. I mean, the errors were just...
It was chaotic. Yeah.
Sloppy, right? They seemed perhaps due to a lack of confidence from training and yeah. Pairs, I was curious. This was a rough pair event, even though there were...
Wait, real quick before we move on. I do like Nikola because I have to.
Right, you're allowed to. He's a very nice skater.
He's 10 feet tall, and I appreciate what he's doing.
He was injured over the summer.
Had a nice comeback moment.
Yeah.
All things considered. I'm intrigued because we also don't really know what's happening with Matteo Rizzo.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, a tough thing. And yeah, and again, Boyan Jin, another one, all over the map.
But Boyan has been this way for a long time, and he's getting older.
I'm not used to seeing such a gorgeous quad lutz in the warm-up.
Yeah.
And then it's sort of like being such a mess. Hard because they were on such a high.
And Lucas Bricci, who was so great, about almost 2 seasons ago, really showing that upward momentum. He has had a knee injury, so it's been pretty significant, and it looked to affect him here. Again, a really uneven performance. But I have to say, one of my favorite eye rolls of all time is Mark started to describe. I wish I wrote down the quote of what he said this program was about.
Oh, the hearing and the listening. That one?
About time travel and going between galaxies. And I'm like, and you're getting this from this program?
Nina from Belgium. I was like, the story that was going on, and we'll get to it when we talk about Eiskunstlauf.
You think the judge is picking up on any of that?
I was like, if the story takes longer to describe than the amount of choreography I'm seeing trying to tell that story, I think we need to recalibrate. Yeah, that's not right away. I mean,
I don't know that Luca Brigi is talented enough to tell this story about time travel between the galaxy. I wasn't getting it. I didn't see the corresponding arm movements. I thought it was lost.
And that's fair, Dave. That's fair that you did not see that.
One thing I just want to say. I am not a Barbra Streisand hater, okay? No. I listened to all
3,000 hours of her book, didn't you?
That Papa Can You Hear Me Free Skate by Conti and Machi was the longest program of all time. I get that they're consistent. They have no real connection. They have no body movement that connects to music. The costumes don't make any sense. They have zero choreography or transitions. It's the same program to different music every year.
Yeah, but other than that, they're your favorites.
My absolute, so substantive and really interesting. I was waiting for this song to end. And I enjoy Barbara. And I thought, will she please stop singing? Okay.
Yeah. Well, and again, it's the thing, it sort of felt like a plateaued energy.
Oh, and I'm sorry. It's, it's about one of their fathers and one of their grandfathers. So, okay, it's the skating sob story. So we have to like it. So the whole thing, we can't criticize it. Okay.
It just needs more levels to me. I suppose if you're the Italian Federation, you can sort of rely on their side-by-sides a bit more compared to the other two teams from Italy.
Pause. Why does a country that has given us Barbara Fusar-Poli and Silvia Fontana, these personalities, have programs that are like wet toast? I mean, Nicola Memola's artistic programs, Conti Machi, like the Italian dance team. I mean, they really are not...
They play it safe, that's for sure. But now, having said that, what is it, Rebecca and Filippo? Is her name Rebecca?
Yes.
Yeah. Rebecca and Filippo they are the one team that tries to push that envelope a little bit and be more stand out-ish in their material. But this is the point I wanted to make. There was such, you have taught me that like some skaters will get under competition lights and go faster, and some will get under competition lights and go slower. And I can't help but wonder if they're one of each. Because something about his energy almost seemed overwhelming. Like he was about to, and certain like grabs seemed like a little off. Like either he was rushing a lot, she was a smidge behind, but based on his body energy, he seemed to be way too into both programs, and it was almost getting out of control.
They have this chaotic, sloppy energy to me at times,
Which
which
I mean,
is why
I appreciate
it's work, right? But it's messy fun, but it can get messy. I do think by Efimova and Mitrofanov from the US,
who I would like to commend for having an excellent choreographer, especially in the short program, Miss Renee. Like, I applaud you, because I was like, what is this? I love this choreography. It's just enough different than sort of all these other formulas we've been seeing. And then he goes, oh, Renee Roca. And I like fell on the floor. I was like, I knew it. It's amazing. Yeah.
We love Renee, don't we? Oh, yes.
Especially that short program. Je suis malade was also nice. It got a little, the music got a little overbearing for me at the end. Like it would be hard to hold that up. But the short program, stellar.
I thought of you and Renee while I was watching this weekend, because our girl went. Do you remember when Allison Reed competed at the Worlds and Renee was like,
I thought of that comment also.
Because it applied to this program as well.
I don't know what it was.
So what was the theme?
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay. And just totally yeah. And I remember
I know she was like, I don't think I got that. What was did you know what the theme was? What was the theme? What was the theme?
No one knows. No one knows.
It was the same theme this year and last, right? It was. What was the theme?
I actually, like, in all fairness, I don't remember what that theme was that they were trying to sell last time. I know it was the puppet, and she was up there a little trying to do this. And at one point,
it's the same theme every year.
She pantomimes like snapping his neck, it looked like. Is that? I hope I read that incorrectly, but she is.
The theme is
like that. And I was like, oh my God.
I feel like the theme is like they're shopping at Hot Topic every year. That's like what I'm getting from this, right?
Well, first she came out, I thought they were going to do like a funky version of Swan Lake based on the dress.
As well.
Yeah. And I was
would have preferred that.
Yeah, that would have made more sense to me.
But in skating in the Me Too era, when a woman is a puppet, I don't know. It's just.
And only to snap his neck. I'm pretty sure that's what happened at the end of the program. But
do you think that's appealing to the judges?
It's not appealing to me. And the judges, I was shocked that
Scott Hamilton always said the judges are a member of the audience as well.
Yeah. And now I know when they were in Lithuania for Euros, there was a big crowd boost and this sort of stuff. But I think since then, the judges have been putting them back down, it would seem. Yeah.
Minerva and Fabienne from Germany. I liked the original music so much better. Remember so at Nebelhorn, they had to change their music last minute because of this copyright thing. And then they switched it back to what music it was supposed to be.
Oh.
It was oddly boring this time.
It was, again, another sort of like plateau situation for me.
Yeah. I mean, they're wonderful technically. They really are quite steady. And that lift that they borrowed from the Russians is really strong at the end, but it wasn't their best performance, but they did enough to win here. Listen.
Easily, yeah.
They were true artists compared to the Italians, okay?
Just the sheer skating skills. And again, having not been together that long, already the unison and this sort of like cohesiveness that they have, it's quite nice.
What do you make of the Italian ice dancers?
Oof.
It's a square peg into a round hole every year, right? It's forced.
No, okay, here's another. Okay, so we're going to get into the specifics of this for sure. I was trying to think of successful exhibition programs that had big attention around it that was then transformed into a competitive program that worked.
Michelle Kwan, Red Violin.
Did
Right?
that start as an exhibition?
Yes.
Oh, forgive me, because I love everything she did, including
But
that.
you know what? The judges were starting to put her down to, prop Arina Slitskaya up. Remember? Arina Slitskaya lost like 5 pounds and she had a longer dress, and Peggy was like, oh, she has transformed. Right?
Again, when Frank was talking to you and he was like, how are we even comparing these two? How is this even a discussion? But I was thinking back to like Johnny when he tried to turn Poker Face into a competitive program. And I don't know if the lights just have to go out a little bit once we're under, competition rules and this sort of stuff. It didn't work. Something looked off. I know it was like different music. The costumes are shocking. But if you were
no boob covers, which ruins the effect.
Well, yeah, kind of go there or don't. It had a Starlight Express quality to it, which I saw on ice back in the day.
Wouldn't that music be preferable to what they're doing now?
It just, you know what it looked like? A French.
Why are they always? Wait, what did it look like? Sorry.
Not Papadakis Cicerone, but how we were talking about like the French avant-garde, which we definitely are getting in ice dance and then in the singles events. It looked like they were trying so hard to do something interesting, but what makes them so good is a crisp, clean thing, and we sort of lost that in both of these programs here.
Never work for me. And I know that Montreal is likely trying to knock them down a peg so that they don't wind up winning the Olympics because it's in a home country, which I find to be an embarrassing argument that someone has to win because it's in their home country. That's horrifying.
I think like the judges don't think that way for reals.
Everyone says this, like even journalists. And I'm like, this is not Russia. When the Olympics are in Russia, you can give Plushenko whatever marks you want. Okay.
Right.
Putin paid $50 billion for those Olympics. You give Plushenko the marks he wants. This is not Russia. Okay.
Well, I'm just naive enough that I'm like, I assume it's if you have a home crowd advantage and the crowd is so behind you and feeds the energy of that moment. But I don't really see the judges switching it up, especially at an Olympics where the crowd is varied. It's not just a local crowd like it would be in Angers.
Yeah, anyway, there's just a taste issue with this team. I mean, we know what the theme is, but I don't know that I like the theme. I don't.
Yeah, I would question the theme because within what you remember from the program is the theme. I don't remember particular movements. I don't remember like that one cool lift where blah, 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 blah.
Their rhythm dance is random musical selections in ketchup and mustard costumes. I don't understand what.
Although in their defense, what the hell else were you supposed to do with this assignment? I don't like any of them. To me, they have taken tremendous artists and athletes and degraded them in like a show choir kind of situation.
I do feel like Ian Somerville skating to Daddy Cool would be a good program as a solo dancer. You know what I want to know with AI video? Well, like the Kula King channels and all of the really aggressive, right? Is it going to come to the point in ice dance where we can AI edit out each partner so we can actually see how good each skater is? Like,
or in this instance, top half, bottom half. Because like what makes him so spectacular is especially waist down.
Yeah.
Deep knees and these edges and all this sort of stuff. She doesn't match that. However, she does have beautiful arm movements.
Yeah.
So it would be like, well, if you could just like shoot.
Not going there. Okay, but you know what? Lopareva and Brisson, she commits to the bit. All right.
And here's another one talking about like Amber Glenn. I mean, I think they thought they just got knocked off the podium, let alone won. Yeah. I think they were shocked by their scores, and I'm sure then ultimately the result, because it wasn't.
David Molina always delivers for Marie France.
Okay.
Like, why wasn't he at Chalk and Bates's wedding? Like, he really is doing the most for this school. Like, I think he should have been there. They had the guy from On Ice Perspectives. You know, they have Matthew Coron. Where was David Molina? He is doing the most for the International Academy of Montreal.
I wasn't bored. I was not bored for one moment during their free dance. Again,
what was that theme?
Don't understand it, but I wasn't bored. I was like, what are they going to do next? I was like, oh gosh, she's upside down. Fascinating. Oh my gosh, what are they doing now?
Next year, Nightmare Before Christmas for this team. I think that would be a great.
That was the theme of this year.
I don't know.
The red and black on it, yeah.
It's a little dominatrixy every season, right?
A little bit. Yeah. But again, I appreciate that they're going bold, believe in it, and I'm intrigued by it. I may not love it. It may not be my favorite or want to see it all the time, but there is definitely a place in this field for it. Where some of the other ones were getting a little like whatever the Italians were doing did not do it for me.
Yeah.
But the French held my interest.
And, you know, we love Celine Dion. I watched her documentary. I'm a fan.
Yeah.
I'm tired of this Bratty and Somerville free dance. They did it last year. It's just not interesting to me. Like, at all. Yeah. He's a lovely skater. I don't know. Like the Papa Can You Hear Me? It feels endless when it just.
Because I have to tell you, Markelov.
Yes.
And his partner.
His wife.
Far more interesting. Choreographically. Yeah. The detail was much more, I was more pulled in and interested in sort of watching what was happening there. Yeah. And blah, blah, blah. Everyone can roll their eyes. They know I love the Czech because I go for big and beautiful.
I like them as well, the Czech.
However, did you see it with the music?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. By the time I was watching through the VPN on YouTube, only their free dance music had been muted. So there must be a copyright issue, which is surprising because they use Beatles for the Beatles for the rhythm dance.
That usually is guaranteed to get you blocked right on YouTube.
But that music was up, but whatever the architect or whatever it was called, it was muted when I watched. So,
well, the other the Canadians with the cowboys that are always, it's Halloween on Ice every year that they perform. The Addams Family.
And that's what I'm saying. There is a difference between them doing that kitschy stuff and what I felt like the French were doing.
Yes.
Like, yes, I know they could be lumped together in the same way the Ilya program and the Adam program can be lumped together. But to me, I see it succeeding in very different ways from an artistic standpoint.
So the lesson of the week is if you're going to wear a hoodie, pull it tight. And have a real one, right? The fake hoodie.
Right. Yeah.
What was your moment of the week?
Renee Roca's short program is definitely one of them. Especially with the ending. I was like, get it, girl. We need more of you. I would say another moment was Andrew Torgashev's short. I thought that was remarkable.
Andrew and Brandon talking and the kiss and cry was great. We need more of that, right?
Why was he there?
Because, he coaches at Great Park Ice. And, when Andrew deems himself worthy of Raphael going, he will go to these competitions with him. He wants to see the work ethic. Raphael's
got it. Yeah.
An interesting personality, right? He makes you earn it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it was kind of funny because
maybe Raphael will ride his motorcycle to nationals if Torgashev is prepared enough. He said he was running one day. I don't know if he meant like running outside or run through. Unclear, but Brandon was like, you may have to add a couple of more. And he should. I think, couldn't you just picture Raphael on his motorcycle, like coming to nationals? Like,
you seem too peppy. I think he'd be like begrudgingly doing it. But also in the women's event.
Raphael also is practicing martial arts. He sent me a picture of himself. Yes. Yes.
Fascinating.
He's an interesting guy.
Yeah, clearly. Yeah. Yeah. I believe it. But I would say in the women also, even though it was very exciting for Amber, I think the continued solidification of the return of Wakaba is also like
Wakaba skating to Kate Bush. Okay,
Yeah.
yes, all right.
Yeah.
And
Was that who wrote Dune?
also, when Adam Siao Him Fa laid down on the ice, I'm sorry, it was something. I don't know if it was good or it was bad, but it was memorable. All right.
And then even as he did it, I thought, I guess you do that. I guess at least he can catch his breath. And then he started doing the shtick where he was like, I was like, if we had let Mirai do that, like back in 2014, she could have full blown laid down and just had a catch breath.
Oh my God.
It's super different.
Benoit was in New Jersey last week, but they went to the ice house because the coaches there wanted him to work with their students. And I thought, thank God. Okay. Like
Yeah.
I don't want to fake it. Okay. I can't do it.
Enjoy your choices. Yeah.
Yes. Enjoy. Hope it looks sexy, everyone. Bye now.